Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Elixir Poetry Podcast, a podcast where we ask ordinary people from around the world to read a poem that means something to them, and we ask them why and how it speaks to their heart. Hello and welcome again to the Elixir Poetry Podcast. Today we're talking to Sunny, who is British and has Indian heritage, who I met a few weeks ago. Sunny is an avid poetry writer, and he's going to introduce us to a couple of his poems. Hello, Sunny.
Hi, Helen. Glad to be on this podcast.
Oh, it's really lovely that you could be here. So would you like to read us your poems, first of all?
Sure. The first one is Go Fish, and here it goes. Everybody's fishing for pennies, if only the water can bear money. Though every river does have a bank, there are no notes, but just a quarry of stones, of varying sizes, miserably old and cold. Yet cash always smiles, knowing we Gentiles are wildly mild, pursuing quick riches in mirages of Niles. So the queen's pretty face smirks and beguiles, understanding that she will never be found, for miles and miles, spreading her legs in these washed-up towns. So while we look in our puddles and ponds, and the gaps and holes in our couch, if only we knew how strange we all look, clowning around for a pound.
That's brilliant. I really like that. Thank you. And you have another one?
Oh, God, that was This is some few that I kind of really liked, and I'm going to go for this one. I wrote this just a random one. It's called Gary.
Okay.
Based on an assortment of people that I come across. So there was a guy called Gary, garage DJ by dawn of day, dairy farmer at noon, nuclear scientist by fall of night. Knives were his favorite toys. Toilets were his thinking chairs. Chess was a much-loved game, and gay men made him sweat. Sweaters he was forced to wear, for the weather was never fair. Fairies danced inside his head, hence his hedges were never trimmed. Trips to the shop were a bore, boarding a plane made him scared. He cared for his ill mother, smothered by a distant father, and far into the future, few people would follow Gary's path, as part of his heart was stuck in his craft, but his ass couldn't be asked to seize his only chance. Yeah.
So, Sunny, it sounds to me as if you're a bit of an observer of people.
Yeah, a little bit of a voyeur. No, so I kind of, I go to my local area in Kingsbury. It's very it's a pub called Ned's, and it's very, very strange people that I meet there, but just an assortment of like young and old guys. They're kind of regulars, you know. It's like Imagine Cheers, that show. And you just meet like a great assortment of like people with like amazing life experience, amazing interests. So I kind of use people as an inspiration. I saw this thing on poetry about the mundane. It's about like kind of just noticing things that most people probably wouldn't pay attention to, the small details about people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find stuff like that quite interesting, and that's what most of my writing is kind of based about. There's the equivalent of Gary that I wrote about. I wrote something called Jamaican Jack Jones, and also Shanta was also a little bit based on my mum as well, but it's also kind of similar qualities where it's just the little things I've noticed in conversation with my mum, with certain neighbors, just certain people and random people in life who normally don't really have that many companions or people to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I found them a few people that I met over here who just live on their own and they don't really have anybody else to chat to, older guys or people who just, don't have any jobs, on benefits, and they just feel like they're kind of a little bit stuck in life. And it's just nice to kind of bring them to life a little bit. So
Yeah,
I thought I'll just write a
to
little
honor
bit
them a
about
bit.
it.
Yeah. I think you could make
Yeah.
a collection of poems about people you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I try to, I mean, I don't want to air people's dirty laundry. So I try to kind of like just mishmash. So Gary is a bit of a mishmash of like different characters' qualities I come across rather than just one particular person.
Hmm.
And you know how you always meet people and they tell you about an interest that they have, and you just wouldn't have picked that they would be that type of person based on first impression.
Hmm.
Uh, so people say that about me as well sometimes. So yeah, and I'm always astounded by people I meet, and they say like I'm interested in like rocket science or astrophysics, or I met people who said like they're a musician or a DJ.
Hmm.
And I was like, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, you look like you've been doing carpentry or building trade work for like 30, 40 years and some guy who looks like he's just doing a regular office job, and they'll just tell you that they have this amazing niche interest that people are just amazing, but we just kind of judge people by the front cover
Yeah.
or the back cover, the synopsis.
Yeah. That's
So
very true. That's very true.
yeah,
I found you very surprising. Um,
yeah,
just for our audience's sake, I met Sonny in an Uber cab, and then he started telling
yeah,
me about your life. And I was
yeah,
completely astounded. I don't know if you want to reveal anything about your life when you were younger, but this feature you have of yourself where you're observing people, this really fits into that initial desire you had to become a journalist, because that's all about
yeah,
observing people, isn't it? Watching,
yeah,
watching people and trying to understand their motivations for what they're doing. And it's a similar thing to writing poetry, actually, is about watching, actually observing the world, either people or things. So,
yeah. It's also being an Uber driver kind of triggered my kind of, me wanting to write a little bit more. It's odd because when you're a driver, when you're a cab driver, you not only do you have conversations with people like I did with you, you have conversations with different people.
mm,
You hear, Turkish couple getting in, talking in Turkish, and then you've got somebody who's Nigerian getting talk. You hear the conversation in Igbo, and then you're talking to them, and you talk to a businessman. The next minute, I don't know, you just get people of all walks of ages, walks of life, and having different conversations literally every 20 minutes. Um, it's just driving 7, 8 hours a day. Don't mean to eavesdrop on conversations, but sometimes eavesdropping on conversations of people in the back as well. And I just found people are just so fascinating, not just to watch, but also to listen to as well.
yeah. I,
Yeah,
I met another Uber driver a while back who's actually writing a book about
yeah.
his life as an Uber driver. And
Okay,
precisely
right.
as you say, about the different people that get into his cab. And he's
Yeah.
did it around the different boroughs of London because he
Mm,
thinks that people who get into the cab in different places are always so different. And he finds
yeah,
fascinating ones, the people who are getting in one district and getting out at another. And
yeah,
trying to work out what's making them travel from one point to another, and often crossing lots of social boundaries whilst they do that. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, no, it's a super interesting way of living in lots of ways. Although really tiring, I imagine, also if you're driving all of the time.
Yeah, I think it can be tiring, but I think those kind of conversations can kind of make time go easily by. Um, so, I was also thinking about doing the same thing, but I also know that I'm sure it's an idea that's been done before. But rather than thinking about it from the Uber point of view, I just enjoy having the conversations rather than more
Yeah.
writing about it. I
Mhm.
prefer maybe going in different social settings, going into a pub or what's that song? There's a song, The Diner. Forgotten how it goes. Who sang it? Was it Suzanne Vega, wasn't it?
Dan
Yeah.
Vega, exactly. Tom Stanley.
Yeah, I was sitting in how's it go? I was sitting in the corner. It's almost like a slight little observation of her in a cafe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just so I was like, I've got a cafe nearby. It's a Turkish cafe, and it's been there for like 20 years. And you get all sorts of people coming in there, and you just kind of see life going by. You see the roadworks, you see people stressed out, you see the police going by. There's an incident, and you talk to the Turkish cafe owners. They've been there for 20 years. You hear a little bit about their story. And you go to the pub, and it's a different environment. People are drinking a little bit. They kind of let go. You go to a snooker club, or you go to, I don't know, a music venue, or
Mm.
you just, it's, yeah, it's, I was always quite introverted when I was younger. I
Mm.
was very shy, quite reclusive. I think that was good for me because it helped me to kind of, to be quiet, to kind of, to just listen to what other people are saying and watch what they're saying, observe body language
Yeah.
rather than jump in and just talk. But at some point, you do have to kind of make conversation. You do have to ask people questions to get people to get to know people a little bit better. And people love it. People love people want somebody asking them questions about their life, about what they're doing, and somebody taking an interest. And you just find nuggets of kind of,
Yeah.
just special things from people. And a lot of my stuff, my writing, has been inspired by people. And sometimes it can be a little bit, I could say, like pessimistic. The Go Fish poem about money and whatnot, but there's also I think there's a lot of optimism that I get from people. I feel quite, even though sometimes people can be quite miserable, they can be quite angry. I find something quite poetic in their kind of their sadness or their misery. And there's always, I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining myself quite well.
No,
There's
but I also see that I see a lot of humor in your writing, and your use of words and the way that that last poem that you did, where you would take the sound from
yeah,
the end of one line and put it into the beginning of the next line, and
yeah, yeah,
you're lifting the subject always, right? You're lifting it into an area of oh, let's take a step back and look at this person in
yeah.
this way. I really like that. So
Well, yeah, that's yeah. Go on. You were saying? Sorry.
what made you start writing, or have you always written?
I started writing so many years ago. I worked in the police. I was a community support officer. I worked in Brent,
Hmm.
and I wanted to become a journalist. When I wanted to become, I took a real interest, first of all, in Middle Eastern politics.
Hmm.
And at the beginning, I wasn't the best writer. I was writing for publications. I never really tried to practice writing myself first, which I'm doing now. But I kind of just went straight into it. And I did a lot of writing for free publications. There's one called the Moon Project. There was the Fear Observer was one my friend used to write for, and he recommended me. And I wrote something about Afghanistan, about Hamid Karzai, who was the president at the time of Afghanistan.
Hmm.
And then I went to Palestine. I was in Turkey. I was blogging. And looking back on some of the writing, even though I felt like I never really took pleasure in the form of writing itself. I felt like I was more interested in the subject of what I was talking about. And then I came back from the Middle East and came back to England, and I got caught up in other personal and issues. So I kind of took a break from that, and I've just kind of gotten back to it. I think maybe the last 3, 4 years I did a little bit of acting work, and there was, people were talking about writing scripts for theatre, for plays, and I thought, why don't I just dabble a little bit in writing and try to do a little bit of short writing, short stories, and then from short stories, I was finding I was doing poems, and there was also a little bit of songwriting. I was doing these funny little songs, which were kind of satire a little bit,
Yeah.
and the part where you were saying I'm taking the end of the line and starting a new line with it, starting to understand the techniques of writing as well, how to hold somebody's attention. It's not about, poetry, just doing a rhyme and things like that. So like, how can I write a poem or write a piece of writing where there's a flow as well. There's a consistency in the subject of the story where I'm not going on a tangent, and I found that more fascinating sometimes than the subject. Like,
Yes.
for example, me talking about Gary, rather than talking about Gary, I found, there was a guy called Gary, garage DJ by dawn of day, dairy farmer by noon. So using the end of the word to find the new line, I thought like, and I was looking at stuff from like songwriters. I'll look at somebody like Eminem, for example, or
Mhm.
just any writer and just see like how they wrote.
Yeah.
Um, and it's all little patterns and structures I had, and that just made me kind of enjoy writing a little bit more. So rather than just trying to find rhyming sentences where I started to get bored and it became repetitive, I just found fun in doing little weird exercises, and yeah, that just really made me enjoy just writing in itself, just more rather than
Yeah.
worrying about subject.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and that's what I realize now. That's what I was missing 10 years ago. Is like I should have like focused on the basics of writing, look at some poetry, been
Mm.
looking at like, Ulysses, Shakespeare a little bit more. It's been, like Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, just reading old poetry, even Indian poetry as well, like Mirza Ghalib or Tagore, for example, or
Yeah.
Rumi. One of Rumi's favorite poems was "This being human is like a guest house," which
Yeah.
was like
We had an
the poem
episode
that I
about the
loved.
guest house poem, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you, and it's really good to get into the joy of writing. The like you say, the
yeah,
craft in it, as well as
yeah,
the subject matter, because it brings out the subject matter and makes it beautiful, or makes it bearable, or makes it heart rending. And it again, like you, I didn't know to seek that, if you like, structure or that wordplay when I first started writing. But once you realize how much fun it is and how interesting it
yeah,
is, it really becomes something that you look for in writing. And you mentioned
yeah,
Eminem, but someone like Eminem is part of the canon.
yeah,
I always say to my students, he writes in iambic pentameter just like Shakespeare did.
yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. He does.
So it
Uh,
doesn't really matter who your idols are, if you like, as long as they're quality idols. And it's really nice that you're taking inspiration also from your Indian heritage. I mean, Rabindranath Tagore is the most amazing writer.
yeah. The only thing about he wrote in Tagore wrote in like Bengali, and I
Mm,
think the translation in English probably doesn't come across quite well. But like Mirza Ghalib, like his stuff was in Urdu. That one I probably can understand a little bit more.
yeah,
But yeah, what you're saying about Shakespeare and pentameter, it's because I was doing acting and I was doing a little bit of Shakespeare, and I was noticing the patterns in the way
yeah.
in Shakespeare's prose. And I've got very bad attention span when it comes to books sometimes.
Mhm.
It's just, after about 5, 6 pages, you kind of drift off.
Mm.
And sometimes you think it's you, but you wonder if it's to do with the quality of writing.
Yeah.
I was reading Grapes of Wrath or Wrath, however you pronounce it,
Oh, yeah.
by Steinbeck, and I was amazed by just the kind of poetry of the words. He had like very short sentences, nothing over descriptive, and there was just kind of like a flow, and I was kind of noticing it very, very quickly, and it was so easy to hold my attention. And it just made me realize that this is what writing is all about. It's like, don't worry about subject, or don't worry about the essence of your story too much. If you just like flow and structure, I think those things. There was even like a little bit of rhyming was going on in some of his words. I found it amazing,
Yeah.
and but I use it as inspiration now for
Yeah.
for for doing my work,
Yeah.
and it makes it just a little bit more fun, because when I just try to rhyme or something like that, to me, it sounds a little bit kind of false, and it feels kind of forced.
But this
Uh,
is a really
to,
important little
yeah,
piece of wisdom for poets, isn't it? That
yeah,
to read other poets, to read other writers, to constantly read, because
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
how you improve. You start to notice what other people are doing, and you start to emulate them a little bit and try and find your own voice. It's great. Oh, it's funny you were talking about Steinbeck. I've just read this book by Olga Tokarczuk, I think her name is, called Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead. And it's a hilarious book. And it's in translation from Polish. But even in translation, the
Mm,
quality of the prose is just astounding. And I started reading it really slowly because I was
mm,
savoring so much the way that she looked at the world and the way that she
mm.
structures her paragraphs. So even a translation from another language, if it's a really excellent
Sure.
book, can be the most amazing experience, and it's lovely. It takes you into another world.
Yeah.
It's
What
great.
was the name of the book? What was the name of the book you mentioned?
It's called Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tok.
Drive Your Plow. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at well, I
Yeah.
just I just put her name in right now. I've never heard of it before, but no, I will definitely have a look at that. Modern writers that kind of been out of touch with. I haven't been reading. I've been reading more sort of like classical stuff. But
Yeah.
you know what? I think I'm reading too much of like the old school stuff. I would love to find like more modern writers writing fresh stuff like what Olga probably writes about. So
So if you
so yeah, no.
want a modern London poet who writes incredibly well, is a
Yeah.
guy called Caleb Femi, and he wrote a book called Poor, and it's about kids like him in Tottenham. And he's one of these guys who's just not afraid of being really clever. So he writes
Yeah.
about incredibly heart-wrenching things, basically about poverty and race.
Yeah.
But he is so clever in the way that he puts together his poems that you just can't stop reading it. You really savor every single word. So have a look for that. It's called
Yeah.
Poor, as in
Caleb Femi.
so.
Yeah, I think I've seen his stuff. I don't know his name. I think I've seen his stuff. Yeah, no, for sure. Obviously, you have people like more like gritty poets.
Mm,
There used to be a Akala, low key, but they're more kind of rappers.
yeah,
You
Okala's
could call them.
really interesting though. He's such a he's a real thinker, isn't he? I tell you, the other person who straddles music and poetry is that guy Stormzy. Do you know him?
Oh, Stormzy. Yes, yeah,
He
yeah. I don't. I haven't.
right. His songs are poetry. It's quite incredible, and someone with an incredible feel for language.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there's some great people about. You know.
yeah. There's I think George the poet. There's Benjamin Zephaniah, and there's probably, I mean, I'm more thinking also poets of my background, more Indian based people. I mean, the only ones I can think about is people who are based in India, Arundhati Roy,
Yeah.
or but yeah, I mean, finding there's also I've got some friends who are writers who are not really, very popular, but I see them on Facebook and whatnot, and writing about their roots, their family. So I always try to take inspiration from like different places. Always try to search out writers
Yeah.
and just
There is this one really
see.
amazing Indian poet called Tishani Doshi. Do you know her?
Tishani Doshi.
Yeah, she wrote a book called A God at the Door. It's amazing what people are writing about, actually, in the way they're still playing with language and still using script and not just film, not just images.
Yeah, I try to take an interest in writing in my own language as well, writing in a little bit of Hindi as well,
Oh,
in
okay.
Gujarati too. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like there's just so much to kind of play with. I mean, I wish I had kind of hadn't for the last 7, 8 years. I wish since I've taken up writing, I took a little break, as I said. I wish I just kind of kept that going, but I think now
You
I'm,
were growing all of that time. I tell you what you might
yeah,
like, Sunny, and I'm finding
yeah,
it really fascinating is I keep coming across poets now who are mixing languages. So there's
right,
called Zaina Hashembeck. She's written this book called O, and she
mm,
writes it in English and in Arabic. And you can, if you don't read Arabic, you
mm,
can just read the English bits. So if you don't read English, you can just read the Arabic bits. But if you read both, it becomes a different poem on the page. So she's just moving through languages. And I think
yeah.
in our world now, we have so many people that are bilingual in different languages that this becomes really interesting. It becomes a really interesting thing to do to include different languages.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, yeah, that
Um,
actually does. Yeah, because it's
So maybe
yeah.
you could do some Hindi English work. And if you
Well, I mean.
you were doing a poem that, saying your mum doesn't speak English, right? So if you do a poem in English and Hindi, you have to make it so that when she reads it, it makes sense for her. And then if someone's
Yeah,
speaking,
yeah,
it makes sense for them. But then if someone speaks Hindi and English, it makes a different type of sense. You know, that
yeah.
is so exciting, I think. Really, really interesting thing to do.
I think, well, I mean, Indian people in particular, I think we speak English, maybe a little bit of Hindi and English. We kind of,
Yeah.
mixed up English in our Hindi, so or in our Gujarati as well. So I think, yeah, because especially here in London, it's a multicultural society. And, you've got people from all over the world
Yeah.
mixing. So
Start a movement of multicultural poetry.
multicultural poetry. Yeah, yeah, that's a great name for a book. Yeah, yeah, great. Thanks for that.
So
Um,
it's been really, really lovely listening to you. And I
yeah,
just want to tell listeners that when I met Sunny, I was so amazed at your energy and your seeking for meaning and your hunger for life. It was just lovely to meet you. And it's been really nice to hear your poems. And I'd love it if you could read them both again so that our listeners can hear the poems again, having listened to you. Would you do that for us,
sh-
please?
sure. Yeah, yeah, I can do that again. I just want to say before I go that I'm so glad to have met you, and it was great having a chat with you as well.
Yeah,
It's funny. I think that our conversation started because of something to do with what happened to Angela Rayner, wasn't it? It was something we were talking about the 1%. Yeah, it was.
exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll read those poems again for you. The first one was "Go Fish." Everybody's fishing for pennies, if only the water can bear money. Though every river does have a bank, there are no notes, but just a quarry of stones, of varying sizes that are miserably old and cold. Yet cash always smiles, knowing we Gentiles are wildly mild, pursuing quick riches in mirages of Niles. So the queen's pretty face smirks and beguiles, understanding that she will never be found for miles and miles, spreading her legs in these washed up towns. So while we look in our puddles and ponds and the gaps and holes in our couch, if only we knew how strange we all look, clowning around for a pound.
That's great.
And probably you can hear the ruffle of the pages. Second one was Gary. There was a guy called Gary, garage DJ by dawn of day, dairy farmer at noon, nuclear scientist by fall of night. Knives were his favorite toys, toilets were his thinking chairs, chess was his much loved game, and gay men made him sweat. Sweaters he was forced to wear, for the weather was never fair. Theories danced inside his head, hence his hedges were never trimmed. Trips to the shop were a bore, boarding the plane made him scared. He cared for his ill mother, smothered by a distant father. Far into the future, few people would follow Gary's path, as part of his heart was stuck in his craft. But his ass couldn't be asked to seize his only chance.
Well, I want you to seize your only chance, Sonny. Keep writing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
I
such
will,
an interesting
definitely.
person. It was lovely to meet you, and thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming on our show.
No worries. It was a pleasure, and it was lovely to meet you too. And thank you for organizing this.
If you're a regular listener and are enjoying the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the follow button on your podcast app. And if you have a moment, leave a review and a 5-star rating. Remember, you can find the poems that feature in each episode on my website, helenwing.com. If you'd like to support the production costs of our Elixir Poetry Podcast, please feel free to buy me a coffee. Thanks for listening.